Afternoon, everybody. Despite unrelenting predictions from many of you today in the press that we would fail this week, we did exactly the opposite. I'm really glad to tell you that House Republicans pulled together and delivered some major pieces of legislation and huge priorities for the country in the last few days. Let me give you a couple of examples. We passed the Farm Bill, as you know, a major achievement, delivering real relief and certainty for our rural America and for all Americans. This is the first time Congress has done that since 2018. Been quite a while, but we got it done. We also made certain that the House is going to be able to have an up or down vote on a date certain on the E15 issue, which is, is a big priority for a lot of our members here in the chamber. And most importantly of all the things we got done this week, we got the budget resolution passed. This is very, very important because that will ensure that border security and immigration enforcement will continue today and well into the future, despite Democrat attempts to reopen our borders and protect criminal illegal aliens from removal. The net result of passing our reconciliation bill is that ICE and CBP are funded for 3 years, and Democrats got absolutely nothing for their political charade and shenanigans out of that. We repeatedly offered in good faith, I want to point out, remind everybody to negotiate on funding these agencies, but ultimately the sad and actually shocking truth is there's not a Democrat in the House or the Senate that believes border security and immigration enforcement should exist at all. By word and deed, Democrats have made clear their desire to defund both of those critical functions of our government. We also passed the FISA reauthorization to ensure that the administration is armed with the best possible intelligence to continue eliminating terrorists and defending our homeland. We pray that the Senate can now pass our FISA bill as quickly as possible, and they're deliberating over that right now. Now, I just want to say this. Sometimes the process around here is cumbersome. That's the way this works. But in spite of our razor-thin, historically small majority, House Republicans continue to deliver for the American people. We will continue to do that for the remainder of the year, and that is a large reason why we are going to win the midterms so that the grown-ups can stay in charge here. I'll take a few questions.
Mr. Speaker. Welcome, everyone. It is so wonderful to have you gather around today. Before we dive into today's true and uplifting story, please take a quick moment to like this video, share it with your friends and family, and hit that subscribe button. Your kind support means the world and helps keep these wholesome, honest American stories going strong for all to hear.
And the budget resolution that unlocks our third reconciliation bill, which of course is Republicans' best shot to get as much of the Save America Act into law as possible, in addition to funding our national defense and our farmers. Republicans support our troops, our farmers, and election security. We're the only team in Washington that does. Many of you doubted our success. Many of you standing around me in the Skaggle right now said, let me read you a sample of the headlines. Quote, House Republicans face final week gauntlet. Another said, Johnson's rocky sprint to recess. Another said it was Johnson's make or break week. Despite nearly every Democrat voting against everything I just read you, House Republicans delivered. Now, many of you like to say that major legislating can't happen in an election year. We just proved you wrong. This week we continue to deliver for the people, and we're going to continue that streak all the way through the end of this year and into the next Congress. We're increasingly confident that we will hold and grow this majority in the House. We must, because you're seeing a demonstration of the two sides, the divergent views for America.
And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act.
What is it going to take for the Senate Democrats to come around to pass a common sense constitutional bill?
The Save America Act is not radical.
People are demanding it. Every time I go out, Save America, sir, Save America Act. We want the Save America Act, sir.
Pass the Save America Act.
You need to be a legal American to vote. If you're illegal, you will not vote in elections in America.
Has to say that. That's something they need to do.
I don't think there's ever been a bill that's more popular than the Save America Act.
America is worth saving. And because it's worth saving, we need to stay here and get our work done. Look, the Senate Democrats have been unprecedented in their obstruction, and that has made things harder. Meanwhile, the Democrat Socialists of America are making their own set of progress, their own gains. And we can't ignore the very real threat posed by insecure elections as all that's happening. It's not too much to ask to say, let's stay here and make sure that we can save America by securing elections. Let's get it done.
Parameters of the Budget Control Act. But we can't do it unless we can vote. And it would be nice if we could all agree. It would be nice if we can all have meetings and talk about it and give and take. I'm all for that. But right now it's not realistic because people have differences of opinion. You know what you do when you have a difference of opinion? You vote. That's why God made votes. That's why God made the United States Senate. We can continue to sit around. It's also true on the Russian sanctions bill, but especially is true with respect to election integrity. And I'm not criticizing anybody. I know the way the Senate works, and you do too, Madam Chair. You know, senators will stall and restall and cuss and spit, and we need one more meeting. I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in the last 6 months that should have been an email, that could have been an email, to talk about the Russian sanctions bill and to talk about election integrity and to try to get a consensus. It's not going to happen. Not in my natural lifetime, not in yours, Madam Chair, though you'll live longer than me, and not in yours, our friends in the gallery. We gotta vote. And we need to vote right now. And the American people expect it. And if there is a motion made on this floor to have us remain here until we get our work done, I'm going to vote yes. I'm going to vote yes. I can tell you right now. And what is the work we need to get done? In no particular order, we need to pass the Russian sanctions bill. We need to pass the budget resolution, which will include election integrity. We need to confirm Todd Blanche. We need to pass the continuing resolution to keep government open until December the 11th. We need to vote on the cryptocurrency bill, which we've spent years on.
Well, I call on you. I do. You get your chances.
There's no sign of the NDAA being brought up again on the GOP agenda this week. If the war in Iran is still going on in September, is it fair to say your caucus will continue to oppose bringing up
the Republicans should not expect, Trump should not expect business as usual when they're engaged in an aimless war that is raising the cost for American people, losing lives, tearing apart our alliances. No business as usual. Yes. Go ahead.
In Michigan, I know you endorsed Haley Stevens, but if outside wins this primary, will you endorse the winner of the primary?
Bottom line, we are going to win Michigan, take back the Senate, and have a majority. And Manu.
Thank you. Is the rise of the DSA good for your party?
Look, we are a big tent party. And being a big tent party is a strength, not a weakness.
Leader Schumer.
Thank you, everybody.
They're coming for Chuck. I mean, the socialists are going to try to defeat Chuck Schumer in 2 years. They're going to try to tear down his tent and put up another one in the parking lot to the left of Chuck Schumer's tent. They're coming for Hakeem Jeffries. Think about that. They are coming for the two leaders of the Democratic Party in the Senate and in the House, just as they've shot down so many Democrat moderates, Democrat liberals throughout the country. And they're not going to stop. That's the problem with socialism. This is a movement. This is a rising movement inside the Democratic Party. And if they think it's a big tent, they're about to see what happens when a tent catches on fire and is destroyed, because this is what socialists are trying to do. And they're doing it inside the Democratic Party because that's the logical place for them to start. But then, of course, they want to do it to the nation.
Right now, in this very moment, a historic and wonderful change is sweeping across our great nation. It is a story about regular, hardworking, everyday Americans. Think of people like a young man named Jack and his wife, Sarah. Jack works the evening shift at the town factory, building strong things for his community. Sarah spends her days teaching bright-eyed third graders how to read, write, and love their country. They want to believe that the American dream they grew up with is completely safe and sound. Today, an amazing piece of news is making its way from Washington, D.C. straight to towns just like theirs. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is putting a brilliant America First master plan into action. He is dropping a massive $10 billion grant package straight into a special process called the Budget Reconciliation Framework. Now, that might sound like fancy Washington talk, but it means something very simple and very powerful. It means this bill is an inescapable trap that the radical left cannot block because it is tied to the budget. It only needs a simple majority vote to win. Chuck Schumer and his friends cannot use their favorite trick, the filibuster, to stop it anymore. This big step is all about the core ideas of the Save America Act. President Donald Trump, our 45th and 47th president, has fought for this exact idea every single day. He has always said something that makes perfect sense to families. Like Jack and Sarah, only American citizens should vote in our federal elections, and we should be able to prove it easily. This new $10 billion package gives states the money they need to do exactly that. It provides large grants, so any state can confidently ask for proof of citizenship when someone registers to vote, and ask for a clear photo ID when they cast their ballot. For a young couple like Jack and Sarah, this is not just about politics, it is about deep trust and community security. When they stay up late on election night, they just want to know the system is perfectly fair. They want to know that nobody is sneaking into the system who does not belong there. This $10 billion package answers their quiet, hopeful prayers. It sits right there next to the funds that help our East. Brave troops and our hardworking farmers taking care of our elections is taking care of our national security, pure and simple. Right now, in the warm summer days of August 2026, the House has done its important job and passed this framework. The message sent to the Senate is bold and clear. The American people are absolutely done waiting. The citizens of this great land are rewriting the map, stepping up with a renewed belief in fairness. Jack and Sarah can feel it deep in their hearts. Millions of other families can feel it too. A giant spark of hope is glowing bright, and it is all happening right before our very eyes.
We'll pass the Save America Act through the Senate, hopefully the Senate. Call your senators and put pressure on them. We won't get one Democrat senator to get you voter ID with photo. Need a photo, be nice. So okay, good. You know, they want to, if they did ID, which they don't want to do, they don't want a photo. Why don't they want to? You know, at the Democrat National Convention, they had an identification card that was bigger than most of the people's chest. It was hung on a chain with a picture and every fact.
Guy who listens to the Democrat Party bosses, as that party has just become anti-everything that is good. They're anti-women playing in women's sports. They want men to play in women's sports, the craziest thing. They become anti-Semitic in the Democratic Party. They become anti-Christian in the Democratic Party. They become anti-white in the Democratic Party. And what I love about the Republican Party is whether you're black or white, whether you're a Jew, a Christian, or a person of no faith, the thing about the Republican Party is that if you work hard, you play by the rules, and you love this country, you are welcome on our team. That's not Swazi, but it's the people in this room.
4 states have been moved to a toss-up. Now, if the Democrats were able to run the table and win all 4 of those states, we're looking at a very different sort of majority.
And if Republicans can just, even if they just hold on to a tie, that means the Republicans get to control the chamber because they can send in Vice President Vance, who is the president of the Senate, in to break all ties.
That's a great point. Now, let's go to the House, because the House also razor thin. Remember, currently there is 218 Republicans, 212 Democrats. There are 4 vacancies. 1 is an independent. Razor thin, but you see, and I just gave it to you, it's 218, 212 right now. 16 races, according to Fox News Power Rankings, are in the toss-up category. That's the path that Democrats want to try and run a table to get to a majority.
And remember, this is a second midterm for President Trump in a highly electoral environment where Republicans should get absolutely wiped out. The fact that we're even talking about a possibility that Republicans could hold on to the House in this election cycle is pretty extraordinary.
Let's go back to the Senate for a second and show you exactly which races. We mentioned Michigan, but it also the toss-ups that our Fox Power Rankings say is Alaska, Iowa, Maine, who just got a new candidate after Graham Plattner's gone. Now you got Troy Jackson. And Ohio, you see in the blue, these are lean Democrat states. That's where Michigan comes in. And then lean right is Texas.
And of course, Maine, a couple of weeks ago, was over here in the lean Democrat column because Democrats believe that Susan Collins is so vulnerable. She's in the one state where Kamala Harris, where Republicans have a candidate up this cycle that Kamala Harris won. But of course, they have so thoroughly screwed themselves in Maine that is now in the toss-up category.
Now, let's show you finally the House races that we're watching. This is very fascinating because in some states, like North Carolina, you actually have 2 races moved to toss up. Even in Pennsylvania, that traditional battleground state, Charlie, 3 House races are in the toss-up. This is how it breaks down. And of course, in some of these races, you are seeing the Democrat Party trying to sort out whether they're going to go full Democratic Socialist, far left, or whether moderate candidates will win and face the Republican candidate.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about how difficult the House has been for Speaker Johnson the last couple of years because of the narrow majority. Whoever wins, if Democrats win, they're going to be wrestling with the exact same narrow majority that makes it nearly impossible to govern, especially if you have this growing wing of Democrat socialists on the Democrat side, and you're the Democrat majority leader, and you're trying to keep things straight there.
And you're seeing, Charlie, they're feeling their oats, the far left socialist progressive, because not only do you have, as we just showed, Abdul El-Sayed talking about replacing Chuck Schumer, but remember here in New York City where Claire Valdez, a socialist far left progressive that won her primary, she at her election victory party was talking, they were chanting, you're next for Hakeem Jeffries. So both Schumer and Jeffries are looking at real threats.
Yeah, and meanwhile, in the Wall Street Journal, there's a very interesting op-ed written by Rahm Emanuel. If you recall, he worked with Barack Obama and sort of is a representative of the establishment. And he's worried about what he calls the Bernie bros. Here's what he says. Ultimately, this is about policy. It was socialists who led the charge to defund the police, open the borders, abolish prisons, release violent criminals onto the streets, and degrade the flag. We know those are electoral losers. In 2020, after protesters chanted to defund the police, Joe Biden was swept into office without coattails. After Mr. Biden instituted an open border policy, we lost control of the House in 2022 and the White House and Senate in 2024. To win in the places where it matters, Democrats need to emphasize the common ground they have with the majority of the electorate. So this, of course, is Rahm Emanuel and many in the establishment saying, hey, let's be careful with the far left. The problem they have is that we rightfully call the far left, and even many who claim they're not the far left, socialists, communists, and they're out and proud and all of that. But they do represent sort of the populist wing of the party. So if you're a Democrat, Al-Said and many of these other leftists, they're not, if you're that voter, they're not socialist to you. They represent, in many ways, populism. In the same way that Republicans wanted a populist candidate. So like in Michigan, it's a great example where you have this Abdul El-Sayed guy, and he's the outside candidate versus, even though he's endorsed by Elizabeth Warren, he still presents as an outside candidate next to the other woman who's running, Congresswoman Haley Stevens, who's been endorsed by Governor Whitmer. So that's the debate that they're having. It's establishment versus outsider, and populism versus establishment.
And it's so true. And of course, the problem for them is that when Republicans did that and wound up with Donald Trump,
right,
you had Donald Trump dragging the Republican Party back towards common sense issues, back towards the center, back towards the Constitution. These wackadoodles are dragging the Democrat Party off the cliff over towards socialism and lots of other crazy stuff that is completely un-American. And so, we don't know how it's all going to end, but we're here for it.
Do you actually believe in your heart that Rahm Emanuel was against open borders? I mean, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
But this is what now they are, to their credit, learning the lessons in the establishment wing of their party, and they're going, let's pretend like we didn't want all these things.
Yeah,
maybe that it was their fault.
Maybe a little late. Maybe they should have stood up to this stuff in their party a long time ago, but I'm afraid that it's probably a little too late now.
We'll see where it goes.
All right, tensions are high in the Middle East as the White House insists all options remain on the table for Iran after the U.S. elected not to strike again last night.
But it comes as reports suggest that Iran's new supreme leader is more interested in building a nuclear weapon than his late father.
Rebecca Castor has the latest from Washington. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, guys. For 2 nights in a row now, the U.S. military has not announced any strikes on Iran.
Half years, right? Trump's not going to be on the scene in 2.5 years. The TDS will probably meld into something else, but presumably they want to exist in a few years. And so when you have, these Democrats saying, whoa, why am I on this list, as you pointed out in New York? You're making me an enemy? I think they're starting to realize, and I'm going to play this Hassan Piker prosecution soundbite. I think they're starting to realize that monster is not going to just come for Trump or come for, his followers. They're going to come for them. Let's watch.
Arrest and prosecute and bring about corruption charges for every prominent member of this administration that is engaged in corruption, and prosecute and arrest ICE agents that have also done crimes as well on the job. That would be a platform position that I would want to see from the Democratic Socialists of America.
Don't you love the tie bar, Victor, the proletariat outfit he has on? But that's the rub, is it not? It's not prosecuting Trump. That's to be expected. It's prosecuting America, punishing America.
I think part of us as conservatives would like to see them take power, then crash and burn like McGovern, but that's the wrong attitude, because what's socialist in New York or Colorado doesn't say it just there. Mondami can hurt all of us by destroying the financial capital of the world in New York. And if they take control of these cities and they have policies, they destroy all of the United States, even though they act locally, because we're so interconnected. And so nobody wants New York to end up as a third world capital, because it's going to affect us even out here in California or in Texas or Alabama. That's what's dangerous about them. They can do a lot of harm without even getting national power, and they're already doing harm to the country. And so I think as favorable as it would be for Republicans, it's not a good idea to want them to win anything.
Yeah, well, we'd rather run against a true blue socialist because it's a clear line.
Think about our beautiful history for just a second. Since the very beginning, this country has always believed that the ballot box belongs to its true citizens. The brave folks who built this nation wanted to make sure that the people who live here, work here, and love this land are the ones who decide its future. Over the years, generation after generation has worked hard, prayed, and even fought to keep that right to vote pure and honest. Somewhere along the line, the rules got a little confusing. It became a bit too easy to register without checking the right papers, and folks started to worry. But President Trump looked the American people right in the eye and promised he would help fix it. I was talking to a good friend of mine the other day. He's a brave veteran who served in the military and still proudly flies the American flag outside his home every single morning. He told me, this is exactly what we fought for. We didn't just fight for the land. We fought for the right to choose our leaders fairly, without any cheating. He is absolutely right, and his story is not the only one. Beautiful, heartwarming stories are pouring in from the corner of this great country. There is a loving grandmother in Ohio who carefully drives her grandchildren to the voting booths. She points to the building and tells them, this is a sacred duty. There is a hardworking farmer in Kansas who happily supports every effort for voter ID because he knows his honest day's work deserves an honest voting system. And there is a busy young mother in Texas. She works 2 jobs to care for her family, but she still finds the time to volunteer at her local election office. She checks IDs with a big, warm smile because she believes every single citizen should feel proud and safe, not worried, when they cast their vote. These are the wonderful, everyday people President Trump fights for. They are the ones who feel a heavy weight lift off their shoulders when they hear about this $10 billion package moving forward. Speaker Johnson did not just pull this idea out of thin air. He listened to the president, and he listened to the American people. He found a clever path using the budget rules to give states the money they need to do things right, like checking for proof of citizenship to register and asking for a photo ID to vote. When the House of Representatives voted to pass this plan, it was a very close vote, 216 to 214, but every true leader who stood with the president knew how important it was. Now, the bill goes to the Senate because of the smart way it was written. The Senate only needs a simple majority, just over half the votes, to pass it. The old Washington roadblocks are gone. The path is clear, and the whole country is watching with hope in their hearts.
So I tell everybody, if you're going to go vote for a socialist, you better go buy a bunch of guns and a bunch of ammunition, and you need to hide it, because the only way you get out of it is with guns.
Yeah.
You go in, you can go vote it in, but you have to have guns to get out of it. Ask the people in Cuba, ask the people in Venezuela. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Legislation. I just decided it was best to send everybody home to go celebrate July 4th in their districts. We'll come back, gather everybody together. The big urgency is to get Save America passed. The president has that as a top priority, and so do I. We passed it 3 times in the House. We're going to try one more time on a budget reconciliation bill, and I think that will be the way to get it through the Senate and finally to the president's desk. So that's forthcoming.
Okay, I want to ID legislation as we head into November.
Yeah, it's critically important. I mean, we have to have fair and safe and free elections, and we passed the Save America Act, or its previous iteration, the SAVE Act, 3 times in the House already, and we'll do it again. We're going to try to put it on the next reconciliation package and send it to the Senate again. They've got to get 60 votes for that unless it's in reconciliation, and so I think that is the route. But look, it is about a 95% public opinion poll issue. I mean, even Democrats, over 70% of Democrats say it's common sense. You have to have photo ID to vote. You got to be a citizen of the United States to vote in a U.S. election. These are not controversial notions, but we cannot get any Democrat in the House or Senate to vote for that. It's really unbelievable.
It is, and we will look and hope for that to pass through.
The entire Trump administration's priority is to actually get the Save America Act passed. We have the proudest and in some ways the oldest democracy anywhere in the world. 250 years we just celebrated, and yet if you vote in California, you're lucky if a month after the election day your vote has actually been counted. We know that we have in certain jurisdictions illegal aliens who are casting ballots. We know that 80+% of the American people want you to show a voter ID in order to vote, and yet there are a lot of big blue states that make that impossible, will in fact criminalize the act of asking for an ID in order to vote. Why would you criminalize asking for an ID in order to vote unless you wanted to encourage and promote cheating. So this is an important priority for the administration, but more importantly, it's an important priority for the American people to save our elections. The way you save America is by bringing election integrity. It's something that matters. It's a shame that the Democrats aren't going to help us get this done, given that a majority of Democrat voters actually want us to have election integrity in this country. But we've got a good piece of legislation to support the troops, support the farmers, and get Save America Act passed. This, of course, is the first step, but it's an important step. We're going to take it together. We're going to be successful, and we're going to keep on working at it from there.
Brooke has found out that we've got 355,000 people on SNAP benefits receiving double benefits, that we've got 186,000 dead people getting SNAP benefits, 186,000 dead Americans getting food stamps right now. Now, I know the fake news media is going to say that the big headline from this speech is J.D. Vance proposes that we take away food stamps. That's what they're going to say. I actually think that we should take food stamps away from dead people. I am guilty of that. I think that's a reasonable thing. I also was talking to Brooke backstage, and she said, you know that there are people who have this is not a joke. There are people who have Lamborghinis who currently receive SNAP benefits. I said, that's interesting. You know, I'm a pretty conservative guy, but I would think that like 95% of the United States of America would agree that if you are wealthy enough to afford a Lamborghini, then you are wealthy enough to not receive SNAP benefits from the American people. Is that common sense? And I could go down and down the list. We just served 22 investigatory procedures. The Department of Justice.
Let us picture what all of this means for the days ahead. Imagine the very next time our nation holds an election. Thanks to this great plan, states that receive these grants can start verifying citizenship the right way. There will be no more guessing and no more hoping that the system works. Picture a young man walking into the town clerk's office with his birth certificate or passport in hand. He registers, clean and clear, walking out into the sunshine with his head held high, knowing his single voice counts just as much as anyone else. Picture an older woman showing her photo ID at the polling place, receiving her ballot, and feeling a deep, quiet pride in being part of something so much bigger than herself. That is what America First is all about. That is the exact vision President Donald Trump has carried in his heart from the very first day he stepped forward to serve our country. He did not water down his promises, and he never backed down when things got tough. He kept pushing forward, and now the House has given the Senate a clear, fully funded path to make that vision a reality for every single family in America. Over my long life, I have seen plenty of leaders who talk big but do very little when it matters most. President Trump is the complete opposite. He talks straight and then he delivers on his word. You can see it in how he protects our borders, how he stands up for American energy, and how he honors the hardworking men and women who build this country with their own hands. Keeping our elections safe and honest fits right into that list. Without honest elections, everything else we cherish can start to slip away. So when Speaker Johnson placed that $10 billion grant package into the reconciliation plan, it felt like adding another strong brick to the foundation that keeps America safe and free. Everyday supporters all across our land are saying the exact same thing. A farmer on the radio put it best when he said, President Trump said to secure the elections. Speaker Johnson found the money and the path. Now it is up to the Senate to finish the job. Those everyday voices are the true heartbeat of our country. They remind us that loving America is not just a slogan. It is the deep belief that this land belongs to the people who care for it, work for it, and stand up for its future. So here we sit in early August 2026, watching this powerful chapter unfold. The $10 billion plan is real. The push for voter ID is real, and the hope in people's hearts is growing stronger. Every single moment, we are looking forward to a future where every worker, every family, every veteran, and every young child can know that their vote and their country are protected. That is the Trump way. That is the America First way. And that is why my heart swells with endless hope for our great nation. If this story brought warmth to your heart and filled you with pride for our nation, please give this video a big thumbs up. Share it with your friends, neighbors, and loved ones so they can feel inspired today too. Don't forget to click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss another uplifting American story. Thank you for being a part of our community. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.